Welcome to People Love Process. I've always loved film noir movies. The lighting in them is always compelling, dramatic, and sets the stage well for stories told in this genre. The technical term for this type of lighting is called low-key lighting. The light source produces high contrast with deep shadows and hard highlights. This makes for a very impactful look and feel. So in this movie, we're going to practice the various lighting types. I'm going to be reviewing those with you. And this approach really will allow you to create and color artwork using simple vector build methods, and we're going to use some of the newer coloring methods available in Adobe Illustrator now. This is going to be a fun style to work in, so let's dive right into it. Now, here's some images I pulled from different film noir productions. The top left, of course, is the classic Casablanca, classic film noir. Really beautiful, shot in black and white. If you haven't seen that movie, that's like in the top 10 of all movies of all time you need to see. The one to the right of that, Chinatown, that's an awesome, kind of a newer film noir, but an early movie of Jack Nicholson. That's a great one as well. One of my personal favorites in the bottom right is called The Third Man. It was an Orson Welles film, and he actually starred in it as well. And this is a scene where he's being chased in the sewers of, I believe it's France, and just really cool lighting. So I want to go over lighting. Now, this caught my interest at a very young age. I was in high school when I started watching some of these film noir movies, and I was just compelled by the look and feel of them. And I started drawing stuff out. And here's an old charcoal drawing I did in high school where it's using kind of that front lighting type of lighting style to get a dramatic look and feel. Now, this is some character I just drew out of my head, just kind of playing around and having fun. But I've always liked this style. And recently, a movie within the last couple of years came out called Lighthouse, and it stars William Dafoe. And I saw scenes of it before I actually saw the movie, and I could tell they shot it in film noir, and a lot of it is in black. I think the whole movie is in black and white now that I think about it. But it made me want to watch the film. And when I was watching the film with my wife, a scene came on the TV, and I told my wife, whoa, 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 pause it, pause it. And I took out my camera, and it was this shot of William Dafoe, but the lighting was awesome. And I just took out my cell phone, our TV was paused while the movie is playing, and I just kind of angled my phone to distort his head even more than it was, so his forehead's looking a lot larger than it really was in the movie, and I snapped this picture. Now, this is a hostage quality picture, but it's all I needed to kind of play around with. Now, I took this into Photoshop, adjusted the levels just to blow it out and make it more dramatic, and this is what I actually drew on. So when you're drawing from a photograph, you're trying to simplify form and shape. I wanted basically to iconify this and create a really cool piece of vector artwork that capitalizes on this type of dramatic lighting. And so all I did is I started looking at the image and then simplifying down to shape and form. So if you look at his mustache here and the way I drew it, I'm taking artistic license because the photograph really isn't shaped like that. So it's taking the composition and kind of the structure of the photograph, but then thinking how to communicate it even better through simple shapes. And so that's why I simplified the mustache down. If you look at the top of his head with his hair, there's a lot of things to give me the idea of what the hair is doing, but they don't have to be exactly like the photo. So it's all about simple shape and form. So ultimately, what we end up with is a nice rough sketch. Now, just like anything else, I'll scan my drawing into a flatbed scanner, get a bitmap TIFF, place it in Illustrator, go to the transparency palette, and then I'll just usually set it between 15 and 20%. Then I'll just lock the layer. And the first shapes that I begin building are the easiest shapes. Well, this artwork technically isn't super hard to build, and you're going to see why in just a second. But I focus on the easiest shapes to discern, that is, and that is the circular shapes. So using ellipse tool, if we just zoom in here, you can see all these areas are ultimately going to be created with the ellipse tool. Whether it's the highlight on the nose, that can be here. Whether it's the nostril, we can take two shapes. We can go to the Pathfinder palette and go minus front to create that half moon shape. And the eyes, of course, are just elliptical shapes. So those are really easy to discern. Now, the next things I want to start creating is all the shapes that make up the face, make up those highlight areas. And so if we look at this area on the cheek, well, years ago, I would just jump to the pen tool and I'd go wherever it comes to a point, gets a point. So I'd do something like this, like that. Then I'd go grab the anchor point tool. Then you can bend it and shape it. And I even think this is too thick. So let's go to the strokes because we're working at 0.75. I might even do it at 0.25 so I can see my drawing. But this is how I would adjust it kind of to get that contour. It's not hard. You can do it all natively in Illustrator. But there's certain plugins that make building shapes like this a lot easier, and one of them is a plugin by AstuteGraphics.com. They're the ones that make plugins for Illustrator. They make a plugin called Subscribe, and in Subscribe, they have a tool called Arch by Points tool. So if I click on that, I can just go where this ends, click on it, go here, go to where it comes to a point, and just build that curve in that fast. Go here, build this curve in like this, and you can see how fast this process goes, where I don't have to touch a different tool to form and shape those curves. I can just go ahead and start just doing it on the fly as I'm creating like this, and I just focus on where those endpoints come like that. Then I shape it, go like this, go over here, figure out where I want it to be here, and go ahead. And so we're going to just keep building this. And I wanted to show you this plugin because it's super, super useful. And ironically, I had this plugin for about 5 years, and I never bothered. I always use this one to do circles in certain ways. And I still haven't really explored these two. These are probably very useful. And at some point, I might take the time to do it. But when I took the time to explore this, I'm going, are you kidding me? Now, at the time I discovered this, if I began from this point, let's say, clicked here, and I go to this next one, and then I adjusted this, it wouldn't connect. It wouldn't fuse together these anchor points. These were all separate lines. And after I started working with this, I recorded a video and I showed it to Astute Graphics. And I said, I just wish it would fuse these points together until I don't want it to, and then I can deactivate it. And they go, we didn't expect people to use this tool that way, but that is cool. Took them 2 weeks to add this in so that I don't have to manually go in there, select those anchors, and go Command J to fuse them together. So that's the way a software company should be working. They should see things that make practical sense. And Astute Graphics does because their head engineer who codes for all their plugins, he used to be a designer. He used to be a creative. He knows why these things are so helpful and useful. And you don't have to try to convince him like with Adobe, who doesn't actually use the software they create. But that's, and when you're not talking like I am here, the process goes even faster. But that's how easy it is to create stuff like this. So this is how I'm creating these now. I rarely, unless there's a point where let's just focus down here on the mouth. This would be a good example where I use both methods. If we zoom in on the part that'll show his teeth, the bottom part of his lip here, I might start off with this and go where if it comes to a point, gets a point. Don't need that. Like this to get that curve, and then I'll go here to get this curve. Well, this isn't going to be a perfect curve. Well, this is where I would switch to the pen tool. So I go back to the pen tool here, and I just start going from here. And this one, I'm going to go like this. Just put these little curves in here to get the teeth, just like that. Where if it comes to point, gets a point. I might start here like this, like that, and might not even need it there. I can pull a handle out there. Then we'll get this and we'll come here. Now I'll go back and I usually use the path scribe tool because when I hover over the path with it selected, notice these nodes that come up. What are those? Those are called ghost handles. And I can just grab that, immediately pull out the Bezier curve handle, and that just makes the process just that much faster. I can go in here and add a subtle curve there. I can even go in here and add a little subtle curve there like that. But then I might go back to that same tool here to get this curve. But notice this one goes like a shallow S shape laying on its back. Well, I'd start here. I go to this endpoint, and then I just pay attention to the curve on the right. And then, again, I go back, select the path scribe tool, grab this handle, and then I just adjust this to get that S curve like that. And then probably go back to this, select this, close the shape like this, and then I'd finesse the Bezier curve to align with my drawing. So that's how I build now. And it fundamentally, this plugin fundamentally changed the way I build vector artwork because it just makes the process more precise and a whole lot faster. So I just wanted to show you that because I use it all the time now. Ever since I discovered that tool within their Subscribe plugin, it saves me so much time, it's not even funny. Unfortunately, you can't natively do it in Illustrator. Once again, if you're going to do it in Illustrator natively, this is how I do it if I'm creating this shape here. I would grab the pen tool and I'd go wherever it comes to point, gets a point. Then wherever it comes to point, gets a point here. Then it's going to be here, and then I'd close the shape. So that'd be the stage one, a rough build. Then I'd go to the anchor point tool, grab the path, and you can adjust it like this. And you can adjust this. Then I'd adjust this. Then I would adjust this, grab this handle, and adjust this. So can you do it natively? Yes. Is it as fast? No. But you can do it. So I just wanted to show you that. It's not like you can't do it natively. You can. It's just going to take a little longer. And any plugin that saves me time saves me money. So that's why I use plugins. They pay for themselves. Now, when it's all said and done, I have all my base art is showing here. And if we think about the simplest of all shapes again, those shapes are the ellipse shapes that I created up front. So all these shapes are going to make up like the highlighting on his face here. Well, I had this elliptical shape, so I'd select this and I just unite it like that. So it creates that nice little highlight on his nose. His eye is going to be dark. So both of these, if we unite these and bring them to the front, make sure they're on top. If I go ahead and color it, you can see they are. That's what we want. And then I can select this shape, and then I can go minus front like that. And then this one as well, make sure it's in front. Select the face here. And on this one, we're going to go unite. We don't need the fill. Let's go ahead and get rid of that. So once we have all of our base art ready, this is where we can have fun. This is where coloring comes in. Now, the thing about film noir movies is it's very dramatic lighting. It's usually dark, especially the night scenes are the best because they're going down these alleys and there's like side lighting coming from off camera and they're highlighted. It's the kind of filmmaking I really love. So our background is going to be black. And here's all of our base shapes. Now, as I do color exploration, yes, there's a lot of different ways to explore color in Illustrator now with the recolor tool. And then you have generative recolor. And we'll be doing a little bit of that just to show you can use that if you want. I still like doing it manually. And one of the color schemes I decided might work good is this color scheme. So this tonal family. And all I'm going to do is select these shapes here. We'll color these orange. Because these are further in the back, there'll be a darker kind of color of that highlight color we have on his face. And then as it's moving back on his hair, this is like thinking of a side lighting, a secondary light source. And that's kind of casting this purple color. And then further away from the viewer, it's a darker shade of purple. And this looks kind of cool. I thought this looked really cool. Well, now, as I'm thinking and approaching color, it's not just using methods or functionality in Illustrator to figure out that color. Sometimes I'm inspired by color. So if I turn this on, this is it's kind of like a film noir horror flick. I don't really like horror movies, but Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, it's not like modern horror movies like Saw, which I have no interest in seeing. But this one, the lighting. Oh my gosh, look at the lighting here. They have front red lighting, so it's creating those nice highlights on his face and casting part of his face in dark. But notice they made the eyes really bright, so they're popping out. And then they have the secondary light source, this blue. I really like that color scheme for this Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde poster. This is a retro poster, so I definitely want to use that. So we're going to use these colors instead, and I'm going to recolor my art with these colors. So on the face, we're going to go ahead and color this red, and as it goes further back from the viewer, it'll be a darker red. The secondary light source is going to be blue, and then the further back it gets will be the darker blue like that. And I think that looks even better, looks more dramatic. Now, in terms of putting the highlights on, this is where a gradient will come into play. So if we just make a copy of the shape on the bottom of the beard here, all we're going to do is we're going to select this. Let's go ahead and go to gradient, and we'll go ahead and pull it out. And all we're going to do is we're going to build a gradient that goes from that same red we have in his face here. So if we highlight the face, you can see we have this. These are the colors we're using here. So all we're going to do on his beard now is we're going to select this. We'll go to gradient, and you can see it's blending from a yellow to the red color. But on this, I want this to be kind of slightly angled. So I'm going to angle this up like this. And I don't want it as big. So I'm going to kind of pull this down like this. And we're going to reposition it because I still want it mostly red, kind of like this. And then we can take this and move it in. And I just want this to just highlight, almost kind of be a rim highlight. And it's going from our red color. But notice I have it blending out to, it's going from, our golden yellow color to a red that's on the face part of the face. So this yellow color wasn't part of our color palette. We just have red and blue, but this is another secondary kind of side lighting that's hitting the face that's yellow. But I don't want it to just blend with red at 100%. So if I go ahead and select this shape, notice it's blending out to red, but it's at 0 alpha. Why did I do that? Because I find you get a better blend that way from going one color to another color, as long as you have the background color underneath it like that. So that's all I'm going to do here. Ultimately, we did that on the whole side of his face. So when I turn all those on, you can see how dramatic and cool that looks. Now, not everything that I do in Illustrator, I kind of figure out coloring on my own. I prefer that. So if I turn this on, you can see that I took the exact same artwork, and just on my own, I figured out a lot of different ways that you could handle the coloring. Maybe it's one type of monochromatic type coloring where you have this creepy green, and then it's another version of the green getting darker on the secondary lighting. That's cool. And you have other ones down here where it's more of a traditional lighting on the face and then two different lighting in the background. So a lot of things you can do when you explore manually, and I like doing that. I just think it's fun. fun. All I do is I go up to color here and I just start exploring colors. I usually work in CMYK mode. That's what this file's in. If you want to work in RGB, you can do that as well. It doesn't matter. I just prefer working in CMYK. But what we're going to do is I have the exact same copy on this layer here, and I'm going to turn it on. And this is going to be generative recolor. So all we're going to do is we're going to take all the artwork on here. Let's go ahead. We have to actually unlock it. I have all of these locked like this. So we'll go ahead and deselect. We'll lock the background of the black because all we care about is all these colors here. So what we can do is we can go ahead and just select this one here, and this is where I might hide it, Command H, just so we don't have to see it, even though it's highlighted. And with that highlighted, I can click on the recolor, click on generative color, and we could do, we could type in a prompt here just to see what it does. Or we can, actually, let's start with the prefabricated sample prompts down here. We'll do Trippy Disco and just see what it does here. And you can see it's changing it. And I'm not sure, maybe this one. Let's try that one. So we'll apply that. Ooh, that looks kind of cool. So you could do it like that. Let's try another one. We'll go ahead and go back to generative recolor. And this one, we'll type in our own prompt and we'll go, let's see, cyberpunk saturated. I don't even know what this will do, but we'll see what it does, and we'll click generate. And it generates, well, that's not really saturated. So, you know, they say this is AI, and maybe it's because it's still in beta. You can see it says beta here. I don't know. I don't know if it's actually artificial intelligence, because this seems opposite of, well, let's just click it, see what, yeah, see, that doesn't look good. That's, you know, that's not very smart AI if it actually is AI. Let's click this one. That's not bad. That's not bad. We'll stick with that one. Let's click on this one, try a different one, and we'll do a few of these. Go here, and we'll go bright pop art colors. See how smart AI is with art history. Maybe. I don't know if this is, we'll check it out. Oh, that's not, okay. That's not that bad. Let's see what this one looks like. I think I'll go with that one. So it's not bad. It doesn't work. It doesn't work that bad. Let's select this one in the middle. We'll do one more. Click on here. But instead of using the generative recolor, I just wanted to show you that because that's the newest aspect of recolor. I kind of like the original recolor. I just think generative recolor is just somewhat automating just a regular recolor, which is new because it only came out about a year and a half ago. But we're going to go to the color library. And I always like the earth tones. I always think you get some interesting stuff with that. And so you can see it's changing there. You can obviously go in here and move this around. Well, I mean, if you wanted earth tones, that's kind of cool. So we could just click out and settle on that. We'll do one more. We'll do this one. And we'll go here. We'll go here. And down below on this, if we click on this and we move this all the way up here, if we go down, it's going to mute the value. This saturates the value like that. And then if you want to break this, you can refocus these on different colors, kind of like that. Maybe you want this to be more green. That doesn't look that great. Let's do purple. Ooh, that looks kind of cool. Like that. Maybe we want it a little brighter. Go down here. And I think that looks pretty good. So I almost find the original recolor works better for adjusting this on the fly if you want to. Maybe they'll get the generative recolor smarter and actually use AI. I think they're just saying it uses AI. I just don't see it really being an improvement to regular recolor. It's more of a gimmick to get people excited about updating to the latest version of Illustrator. That's what I think's really going on with their marketing. It's a lot of hype. Adobe does that a lot with new features. And anyway, that's just my opinion. So let's jump back to our artwork. This is what inspired our color. This is what the final art ends up looking like. And this was the type treatment that I locked in with this. Now, once again, I don't know if I mentioned this previously, but I watched the movie because I love film noir, but I really didn't like the movie. The movie's kind of creepy. You might like it, so give it a shot for no other reason than to check out a modern make of a film noir genre. That's definitely what it is, and it's just a lot of fun to work in this style. I have a couple other pieces of artwork I've been working on that eventually I'll work into People of Process, but I don't want to overdo you with the same kind of style and approach, even though it's super fun to work with. But what I want to go over with you next, before we close this out, is a resource. Every summer I teach at Hartford Art School in their Master of Fine Arts program, and I get to attend the lectures like the students. It's a lot of fun because it feels like I'm back in art school again. And one of their staff teachers, Bill Thompson, did a talk on lighting, and it was absolutely great. And he shared those resources with me so I could share them with you. And I just want to walk through this because it defines the various lighting types, which is used in all film noir classics and just lighting of photography in general. And I think it's going to help you understand how you can handle lighting. So the first one is called front lighting. And this is a good example of front lighting. Here's a diagram to really define the position of where the light is to the subject matter, which is this person. You can get a good idea of the date in terms of this photo, the way the dude's dressed. It's almost like the late 50s type vibe. So it's timeless. Lighting is timeless. Your character, your art can be anything, but using these lighting types really will bring a lot of drama. So this would be a good example of front lighting. You can take the time to check out the multi-page PDF that I include in the exercise files on this and the last one that I'm going to show you, which is using a figurine and the different lighting types. This would be front lighting. Here's one called underlighting. Now, you might recognize this from horror movies or monster movies because this is classic in that respect. It creates somewhat of an unnatural shadowing on the face like this, and it kind of gives a sinister feel overall, and that's why it's used in monster movies and villains, of course. So this would be underlighting. Here's a high side lighting. This one is classic for portrait photography. It's where the camera is positioned high, above, and at a 45-degree angle. It creates dramatic lighting where it encapsulates certain areas of the face that's in the shadowing, and it captures all the left-hand side of the face of the portrait. So that's high side lighting. Here's top lighting. Top lighting really creates deep shadows, especially in the eye sockets, under the nose, under the chin, obviously. And the top lip is in shadow, and there's a cast shadow on the bottom lip. Now, if you watch old cowboy movies like High Noon, the sun is high in the sky, and this is what you see with the cowboy hat that the characters are wearing, casting shadows on the face. So again, another dramatic way to handle lighting. Here's side lighting. Side lighting is also referred to as hatchet lighting because it's kind of splitting the subject in half. You have one side that's in light, one side's in shadow, and it's good for capturing the detail on clothing with wrinkles and all the folds and that type of thing. And then one of my favorite types is side rear lighting, because side rear lighting, again, if you ever watch the movie Apocalypse Now, they use these type of lighting features for that movie. And that wasn't film noir, but it was very dramatic and creepy with Marlon Brando playing the character and being composed in this type of lighting. So the camera source is actually a little behind the figure coming from the side. So those are the different fundamental lighting types. Now, of course, you can combine them, and that's the last thing I want to show you here is you can use secondary lighting. So if we take this figurine of a Frankenstein figurine, it's like a bobblehead Frankenstein, and we did front lighting on it, this is what it would look like. So it's all lit here, and you can see the shadows it creates on the face, under the brow, on the right-hand side, and it's lit up on the left. So that'd be front lighting. But you could do front lighting with side lighting. So you get that same highlighting going here on the front of the face, but notice the highlight hit on the side really looks nice. So you can combine those two types of lighting. You can do underlighting. And since we have Frankenstein, does this not look appropriate for Frankenstein? Because this is what they did in monster movies. They lit it from underneath. And if you ever watch Conan O'Brien, and him and his co-host used to put the flashlight under their chin and do "in the year 2000," and then they'd come up with crazy stuff. I always liked that skit. But this is exactly what they did. So that would be a good example of underlighting. Now you can take side rear lighting, and in this case, the figurine has it side rear lighting, which means the light source is somewhat behind and to the side of this figurine, but it's shining on the left and it's shining on the right. And when combined together, it puts a shadow going down the middle of the face. This is also a very dramatic way to light it. Now, of course, the light doesn't have to be white light. You can color it any way you want. You saw in the example that I did based off of that Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde poster, it was a red and blue. So blue was a secondary kind of side backlighting, and then you had the front lighting and underlighting was in the red. And so this is handling in much the same way. Front lighting is red, side lighting, side rear lighting, that is in green. If you combine it with underlighting being red and side rear lighting being green, look at this, that looks like a horror movie poster type vibe. So you can definitely get certain effects when you combine the different types of lighting. I encourage you to try this style. Take a photo of yourself or a favorite personality and experiment with your visual deduction skills and then build it out in Illustrator. It's a great creative exercise to help you grow your creative skills. Make sure your photo or reference has a nice high contrast so you can visually isolate shapes and simplify their form by drawing them out first before you ever jump into Illustrator. Kind of think in shapes. Think about how you're going to create it in Illustrator, and that's going to help you figure out how to draw it. As always, the exercise files for each of my People of Process movies can always be accessed via a link in the description below. A big thank you to those who have and to those who have also become members as well. You help me to continue creating original content for this channel, and I appreciate your support a whole lot. Until next time, thank you for watching People of Process. And as always, I hope this content helps you improve your own creative process.